Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Boomerang Theater Company. My name is Tim Errickson. I am the artistic director of the Boomerang Theater Company. And today, we have a very special chat. We have playwright Ying Ying Lee and director Kat Yen. This is very exciting. Hello, welcome to both of you.
Hi.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I'll give you a little context. Ying Ying Lee's work has been developed or seen at the Tank, Rule of 7 by 7, Decent Theater, Yes Noise, The Brick, and On the High Line. She is a member of the Public Theater's 2020 to 2022 Emerging Writers Group and alumnus of the Tank's Writers Group. Kat Yen is a Taiwanese-American director whose recent productions include 2 Mile Hollow, Fade, and Usual Girls. She was the artistic director of Spookfish Theater, resident director at The Flea, and a Van Leer Fellow at Second Stage. She received her MFA from the Yale School of Drama. All right. Well, welcome. How are both of you doing during this wild and tumultuous summer now into fall here in New York City?
Well, that's a big question, I guess.
Yeah.
it's like I'm doing good. I'm doing well compared to how I could be doing, I guess. So there's a lot to be grateful for. But on the other hand, at night, like I think in my head, I'm like, everyone else, this is terrible, right? Like this is horrible. We're all on our knees, right? Because like the world is ending, right? Like when you think about it, it's terrible. But day to day, I'm fed, I'm warm, I have my family and my health and stuff like that. So it's really hard not to be grateful for all of that stuff.
Kat, what about you?
Yeah, I would say day to day, actually getting better by the day. I would say the first few months of quarantine was a bit rough, but now that we're all figuring out like how to work and still be in a room together, things feel like they're slightly normalizing. Not that like the world is there yet, but we're able to get back into the groove of things. And then surprisingly, I feel like I've been connecting with friends more since the quarantine because everyone has time to get on Zoom and like just have like a 2 to 3 hour long chat in a way that I didn't have before. Before I was meeting people for like 30-minute coffee meetings and stuff, and now we're just all chilling. So I've actually deepened a few of my friendships in this time. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's fantastic. In terms of your creative work for the two of you, Ying, you're a writer and a performer, so there's I imagine a lot of change to being creative right now. What's it been like to be creative, or how have you been able to stay creative during this time?
Well, I've mostly been writing. I think I've been writing, wearing my writer hat a lot more. So I've been writing for the writers group that I'm in, the Emerging Writers Group. So we have meetings every 2 weeks. So that's been very helpful to have a group of creatives who are also writers talk about writing with, and a deadline to work towards. This has been super, super helpful in normal circumstances too, but in a pandemic particularly. So creatively, I've been just being with like-minded people and working with a deadline has helped. And then as a performer, I don't think I've been doing too much of that. I've done like maybe one reading, on Zoom reading as a performer. It feels very, very strange. It was the first time, so I feel like that Zoom reading craft is like, I can feel all the actors are like figuring it out and like working it out and finessing it and getting really good at it. So I'm interested to see what happens. And I feel like as a writer, like one thing that is a conundrum or a riddle or that I've been trying to figure out is like, where are you setting the story? Is it before the pandemic or after, or are you pretending that it's just a parallel timeline? Because for some reason, I feel like I need to know that in order to proceed.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like a lot of the things that I've seen have just avoided talking about the pandemic completely.
Right.
I don't know if it's some form of like denial or
right.
like hope for better times, or I don't know. It's hard. It's hard.
Right, right, totally.
Kat, what about you? How have you been holding up through all this creatively?
Um, Actually, all right. I've never done film prior to the pandemic at all. I'm a theater girl only, or was. But since working on Zoom, I've sort of had to learn to work filmically. There were a few Zoom readings that we like fully recorded, did camera angles, and then I worked with a film editor to sort of put it all together as smoothly as possible, overlaying sound and music and all of that. And I will say, I don't know, I guess I feel like I have a new medium I'm now interested in, and trying to learn as much as possible. And hopefully after this, like, cause I have been asked to do some film stuff and my passion hadn't been there, but now it kind of is. Like forced by the pandemic, but hey, it's there. It's just great to like learn a new art form in any way. So yeah, that's actually been really exciting. Like I've just never even looked at angles like that as opposed to a whole stage picture. And like it's like rewiring how I'm looking at things.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, there's been a lot of talk about how much of this Zoom theater experience we will retain once we actually get spaces back. And because of the economics, I'm sure that there'll be a part of it that, you know, whether it be new play development or musicals development or, you know, readings of things in process that will be able to be retained, will probably be retained on some level. So it's interesting how we are adapting and picking up those skills. Speaking of development over Zoom, one of the exciting reasons that we have the two of you here today is because Ying's play Dance Moms is going to be the first Baton Project for Boomerang coming up on October 15th. And we're very excited to have you. And Kat will be directing that. So let's talk a little bit about that project and how it came to be. So can you tell me a little bit about the development process up to this point of Dance Moms and what it's been through?
Sure. I wrote Dance Moms when I was at the Tanks writers group. So I think maybe 2 years ago, I had just given birth to my first child, my son. So he was a baby. And then I didn't know, when I was applying for the group, I hadn't had him yet. So I thought like, oh, it's an infant, it's fine. Like I'll just feed it and let it sleep and then I'll just write. Like, and then when
how'd that work out?
It would, I participated by speakerphone for a couple months while like my husband was just like, had this screaming baby in the background. I tried to hear what everyone was saying, but so that was pretty tricky, but I figured out a way to write where he liked to nap on me. So for the first time, I just wrote in my head basically. And then when I had time to like put it on a computer, then I would write it down, which is something that I don't think I have a fortitude. Like I don't like to play chess. Like I don't like to think in my head too much. I like to think on paper. So that was something new that I got to do. And so that's how I wrote it, with like a baby sleeping on me in my head. And then it got an internal reading with the writers group at the Tank a couple months later. And then last summer, it had its one and only public reading at the Tank as part of their Lady Fest festival. And that was a stage reading, but it was only just like one rehearsal, like the day of. So it was kind of like a quick turnaround. And that is it so far. I submitted to a couple of places this year, and it placed as a semi-finalist at the Premier Play Festival, King University. I think that's it in terms of his development.
That's fantastic. And Kat, how have you and Ying worked together in the past? What projects have you guys worked on together?
Oh gosh, we've known each other.
That's too big a question. Like we can do something else.
No. I was just like, we've known each other for 10 years now. So we've worked on a lot. We've worked on, I believe, 3 full productions in that time, a whole bunch of small productions, or like small plays. Right? It's 3 because it's I wrote on your wall, Pornography for the People and The Usual Girls. And I also had the opportunity to work with Ying as a director for a piece on the High Line, which I think you had referenced in the bio, Tim.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that? What was that like?
Oh, well, that was cool because we had the best set drop in the whole world. I mean, we were literally the backdrop of all of New York City. And I love public performance in the way that like anyone could stop and watch, which is how it was set up. Like, you know, like just tourism, like tourists and like just people about their day would just like pause and then like watch the whole piece. And it was wonderful. And of course it was wonderful because it was the first time I got to work with Ying as a writer.
That's fantastic. And so for people who don't know Dance Moms yet, Dance Moms is a cast of all women of varying ages, right, and types. Can you talk a little bit about the genesis for an idea of this idea for writing for a cast of all women?
Sure. Well, my mom is actually a dance mom. Like,
yay!
She took up dance classes like maybe 10 years ago. So like as a grown mom, you know, as a grown woman, and I went to a couple of her dance classes, and you know, they had a very overzealous dance teacher who was much younger, who, you know, would keep, like, these are women in their 50s and 60s who would keep them up until like their classes, she would just go on and on. Their classes would go till they would have started at 9, and then my mom would come home at midnight and be like, well, we weren't very disciplined and we had to stay late, you know? And this like 20-year-old girl is making them stay. Like, and these are housewives with careers and jobs and grown children. Or, you know, like she would come back and she would be all like gossipy, you know, like my mom would come home from dance rehearsal and then run into the office and get onto the speakerphone and keep talking to whoever she was talking to from dance class about somebody else in dance class. Like, so it was just like, I just knew there was a lot of drama, and I also thought it was very beautiful. I went to their rehearsals too, just to see what that looked like. And I went to their shows and I would help them tape their shows. It was very beautiful to see how empowering it was, and how, like, despite all the drama and all the other stuff that makes it fun, it was just the physicality of getting to express yourself in that way was so empowering. So they all got a high out of it, just the way that any performer, any creative person would, you know. These are not creative women necessarily. Some of them are scientists or engineers, and they're getting high off of it. And it was really beautiful to see. And I so wanted to capture some of that as well.
That's fantastic. And how has the process been going so far? I know the two of you have been working on casting and getting a choreographer together, perhaps for some Zoom dance. How has the process been going so far?
It's been good. I actually have a meeting with the choreographer later today. Very, very excited to do dance over Zoom. This will be brand new for me, but I got ideas. And then we are in the middle of casting right now. Actually, I'm in a writers group, and Jess, who heads up the writers group, is super in touch with women in their 50s, 60s, that community specifically. So she is currently, literally at the moment, emailing me and sending me some options. So after this call, I'm gonna have much more to update Ying on.
That's fantastic. The who's who of Dance Moms are coming to your inbox right now. That is great.
Yep.
That's awesome. In terms of process, since we'll segue through that, when you're working on a project, whether it be together or whether Ying is writing or working on a scene or directing or breaking something down, what is the process like for you? Is there a spot in your house that we'll start with Ying because it'll be easier. Ying, when you're writing, I know that your schedule is a little bit probably challenged right now with a newborn, but in general, are you a morning writer or a late night writer, or Do you have a special thing that you have to have in order to get into the flow?
I think the special thing I have to have is like overwhelming pressure, crushing a deadline, and like negative self-talk. To
Welcome to
be
the
honest.
huh? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it usually happens late at night, when I put it off for a while.
Yeah.
And that it really helps. Or also accountability. So like I love writers groups because that really helps me like do things. I'm sadly I'm not the kind of writer that, can do it in the morning with tea and an orange and just like healthy like birds and stuff like that. Like not there yet.
That's awesome. Do you like to write do you use music at all, or do you use other outside stimulus to sort of, different people have talked about like whether they can write with the radio on, or if writing with music with words in it is too much for them, or people curate playlists or do all kinds of things. Do you have any process that you do?
I can't really listen to music, although I haven't gone so far as to try to use a playlist.
Mm-hmm.
I usually don't do music. There was one summer where I was writing in Beijing in China, and I had no air conditioning, and it was so hot. It was like so hot, and that really helped. Like it was oppressively just so hot, and I felt like that discomfort was really good. Like I like my writing from that summer. It's been years. So I think that's something I'll keep in my back pocket.
Oh my gosh.
Physical
Okay.
discomfort. Intense heat. Just
Intense heat. Oh my God. All right, Kat. Do you also prefer intense heat when you're blocking, or what's?
Oh God, I do not. I do not. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like most of my work, which is with actors in a room, it's just based on their availability / my availability. But in terms of my private work, if I'm just like prepping a script or doing something that feels more like paperworky, I'll have TV on and just like some show. My show is Brooklyn Nine-Nine right now, so it would just like play because I already know every episode and I just like kind of have it on. But if I'm like working on the piece, either thinking about moments or anything in which I want to hear the voices of the characters in my head, I need it to be completely silent. Or as silent as possible, just to like hyper focus into that. And in general, I am very much a night worker. When I'm working like, on something, I probably see more sunrises like than sunsets because I'm also like in a room at that point. But yeah, like I constantly work and then I see the sun and then I'm like, oh God, must go to sleep now. But like my mind just buzzes after midnight. Like it's like, it's my time to thrive creatively. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because nothing else is happening in the house that I have to take care of. My partner's asleep. Like I can just like focus. But yeah, like 12 to like about 6 a.m. is my sweet spot.
That's exciting. In terms of directing and sort of putting projects together, similar to the question I was asking Ying about playlists or things, do you like to pull a lot of material together? Do you put together Pinterest boards for things? Like, are there visual things that you like to use to sort of compile to get you to find the world of a piece you're working on?
Yeah, before I discovered theater, I was actually a painter. So the first few shows that I directed, and actually I think all the shows I worked on with Ying as a performer, I had also set designed the piece. And in general, I don't do that now because I have the opportunity to work with like amazing set designers that are experts at what they do. But it's still really important to me that I have a good sense of the space as I'm working on a show. So most of my visuals will kind of go into that. And it's totally okay if that's not, the direction we end up keeping. But like, because theater works in a liminal space, I kind of have to start there visually, just like a sense of what that space is, as I imagine blocking and moment to moment work and all that stuff for the play.
That's awesome. Yeah. and I'd imagine some of that will carry over very easily to sort of Zoom theater, which has its prescribed box, right? Like you can fill it with the whatever images you want, you know, in terms of how things look, whether it be, you know, virtual backgrounds or, you know, other practical things or stuff like that. So I find it super interesting.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I feel like this is most theater artists, right? Where our creativity thrives within limits. Because once you like know the limits of that box, then you know how fully you can explore in it, and you can do anything you want in it. And plus, like, you just do more creative things because of that limit. And Zoom is definitely limiting. So, but that just means you're thinking in different ways. Like, I'm now thinking about how to work on choreography over Zoom. And then we had discussed, you know, Tim and Ying briefly, like if we want to do sort of focus on a specific body part, like of a dance and different dances, like is this the one where we're mostly seeing hands? Is this the one where we're mostly seeing hips, et cetera, et cetera. But just knowing the limitation of a frame, and also in a live reading where an actor has to be able to do whatever and then go right back to the script and right back into this camera. Yeah, like those limitations set us up for a lot of creativity, I think.
That's fantastic. So our last question is generally the advice question. So through all of this, has there been a piece of advice or a quote that you know, think of from time to time that, you know, if you are feeling down about, you know, the things that we aren't able to do, or if you're stuck on a particular moment, whatever it is creatively, is there something you fall back on to sort of get you through or reground you? So Ying, I'll ask you first, since I'll put you on the spot.
I think, well, the things that traditionally have helped me, the phrase, "this too shall end." I don't know, sometimes it helps, but it's such an open question. So such an open-ended situation that we're in, that one is pretty, it's not as helpful now. Another one is just to keep your rudder in the water. They're very simple phrases. And that one is okay. I think maybe the one that is most helpful and has helped me in the past has always been that at the end of the day is about the work, and just to focus on the work and the truthfulness of the work itself. It's like the battery that gives you the energy anyway, right? So, you know, when everything else is kind of taking your energy away and making you incapable of focusing on your work, then just go for the thing that replenishes you, the part of the work that replenishes you, and you know, focus on that and celebrate that and build on that.
That's great. I love that. Kat, what about you?
Yeah, I would say in general piece of advice that I was given years ago when I was at the Flea by Jim, the artistic director, is he said, he said, just know that everyone is trying to take your note. And it wasn't specific to me. It was just like to our entire group of resident directors. But he was saying, you know, like directing, just like any job, can be stressful or frustrating. And he was like, you know, if something isn't happening with a designer or an actor, just know that everyone's trying to work with you. You know what I mean? We're all in this together. They're trying to take the note. So maybe you currently haven't cracked like the vocabulary or language of how to speak to that specific collaborator, or, you know, something else might be going on. But he was like, which I just have held close to my heart, but he said, never, ever, ever assume malice or laziness. Assume that everyone is trying their max effort to work with you and like take a note. And if you just lead with that attitude as a director, it will serve you well for the rest of your life. And that has been, it's been like, I don't know, 6 years since then. And I still think about that every time I'm in a room and I'm like running into some trouble. I'm just like, this person is trying so hard to work with me and take this note. How do we get there a different way? Instead of letting any frustration get in the way of the work we have to do. And then I guess in general, this isn't really advice, but I just love this. I think like month 2 of the pandemic, I was super bummed because like my last production at Yale was canceled, and that's usually the one that launches you industry wise, and a lot of stuff were canceled, and I was just like, oh, I've been working so long and so hard for some of this stuff, as all of us have. A good friend of mine who's an actress said, because I said something like, well, I don't know, I guess it's the great equalizer, good or bad, and she was like, well, Al Pacino's not working, so I'm not gonna get down on myself. She was like, all of us are in the same boat. Yeah, and again, it was just such an equalizing human thing to just keep in mind, as like as we were. And I actually think most of us have been out of that place. But there was a couple of months where I think all of us were a little woe is me. But it was nice to be like, we're all here. Like, you could be Al Pacino and you are here with us. So that was kind of, I don't know, just like a saying that I kept saying to myself for that month.
That's awesome. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for coming on and talking about this. And so we're excited because this project is coming up. So Dance Moms is coming up. It's going to have a public reading on October 15th over Zoom, our favorite virtual streaming service. And we're very excited to have you both here, and we're working on this project. So thank you so much, and best of luck. Break all the legs as we get ready for this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So excited.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.